So I think we are 5, 6 minutes in. So I think we are good to start. So welcome everybody. My name is Fia. I'm a community manager and marketing specialist at Oceanogami, which is a consulting firm that helps organizations improve their marine responsibility through training, awareness, and research activities. Oceanogami was founded by Dr. Patricia Pug, whom we have here today, but she will tell us a little bit more about this later. We also have Dr. Christine Ward-Paige, who is our guest speaker today, and she is the founder and lead scientist at eOceans, and she will tell us a lot more about it later, so I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Patricia, can you tell us what is exactly Oceanogami and how this webinar fits within your organization? You are muted, Patricia, so you need to unmute yourself first, please.
Hello, thanks to everyone for being here. I actually was going to put a similar sentence as the one that we could reach a sustainable connection with the ocean. This is actually what we try to do to reach with Oceanogami. Since I founded Oceanogami, what I felt I was working on different fields. I'm a marine scientist, so I work on research and also applied conservation in different places over the world. My last experience before founding of Oceanogami was in Galapagos, where the people was having this strong connection with the sea and really caring and living with the ocean. You can say, because you live there next to the Mount Seals, and then everything it feels more connected, no? And when I came back to Barcelona and to Europe in general, I found this connection with the people and the ocean, and I believe we are going to talk also a lot about this today, how we can contribute more as a society with the ocean. So this is one of the missions of Oceanogami, to connect the different sectors, private, public, and society, with the aim to be more connected to the ocean and for ocean conservation, for improving the sustainability of the ocean. Then we are now, so in our team, we are around more than 100 consultants with different fields, and we don't work a full-time basis, but we are a team, a very diverse team, no? So this is one of the ends of this webinar, actually, is to connect also our, because usually the consultancy world is a bit lonely. Sometimes you work with your computer and then you work alone. So to have this network, this consultancy network that we have, and to be more connected with the same purpose of the ocean conservation and sharing and contributing and participating in projects, no? And one of the things that we will want to do with this webinar, one of our aims, is also to give visibility to the consultants that they collaborate in our network, such as Christine, that she has her own company. She is doing so many amazing things, but at the same time, she has some time also to contribute to Oceanogami mission and helping collaborating in our consultancies. So yeah, this is a bit of the brief of why we are here, and we wanted to open this webinar to also to everyone, to general audience, not only the consultancy team, because we thought this particular topic is very relevant, so we wanted to open it to everyone. So thank you for being here, and yeah, looking forward to hear Christine.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I think that was very clear. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now, or also you can just keep them, save them for the end, because we'll have a Q&A session then. Now, and I'm looking at you, Christine, but it's not your turn yet, because first I'm gonna still ask another question to our audience. Okay, I'm seeing the overfishing and collaboration are two of the biggest concerns of the people here, I'm seeing. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good sample of ocean conservation problems, I would say. And this being said, now, yes, Christine, I'm going back to you and I'm going to ask you, as someone who has been thinking a lot about these and other ocean problems, which one concerns you the most? I will stop my sharing my screen in case you want to start. If you have a presentation, feel free to do so. Okay, just don't forget to unmute yourself. Yeah,
Did I do that
perfect.
first? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
perfect. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a great introduction and really enthusiastic responses with very diverse responses and concerns. And yeah, I think that was a great start to this. Okay, so this is, you can see my talk and I will go maybe.
Yeah, we can see everything. I think we are at the first slide.
Can't get there. There we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
So, as we all know, the oceans have always been dynamic, and everyone in the Oceanogami Consultancy Network knows that the ocean is changing fast. It is changing faster than it has ever, and this is not only as a response to the responses that we got from the network. Carbon pollution, which is fundamentally changing the chemistry of our ocean, the temperature, the distribution of species, and what can live where, and how many of those things can live where, but also all the work that we're doing. So all the work that we're doing, whether it's conservation, tourism, marine protected areas, offshore development, fisheries, aquaculture, research, education, all these things are also changing in our ocean spaces. And so as consultants, our jobs are to help clients and our communities and the global, community to succeed and to make smart decisions as we move forward. But there is a problem, and that is that we've had a very hard time keeping up. And so I'm going to get into that problem today and discuss it with you and the implications, but also look at solutions and how we can sort of work together. So the collaboration was one of those big responses, how we can work together, use technology to make smarter decisions with the future in mind. And so let's dive in. So today, this is how I view the work that we're doing, whether it's on fisheries, tourism, protected areas, development, nature-based solutions, blue economy. This is how I envision all the work that we do. Everything needs data. And so to make informed decisions. So we need data quality. So if I'm going down the left-hand side here, we need data quality. All the data that we're collecting has to be quality data. Then we need lots of that data. So if we're only sampling in the summer months and not in the winter months, we don't have enough information. Then we need to manage that data and make it interoperable. To date, people have been collecting biodiversity data, coral data, fisheries data, fishing data, pollution, ghost nets. All these different data are in all different computers, data sets, silos, even data warehouses that are meant to bring those data sets together are still in a very narrow field. Then once we have questions that we're trying to pursue with our data, we do a summary analysis. So we bring that data together, which can be very time consuming. And then we do a summary analysis, advanced analysis. We make maps, graphs, and we track trends through time. And then we generate reports and disseminate that work, whether that's through conferences, webinars, social media, and so on. And then across the top there, each one of those steps requires different sort of skill sets. So if you've looked at a job advertisement or an advertisement for consulting work, it is quite a diverse set of skills that somebody needs to execute any one of these projects. Everything from going into the field and knowing what to observe, following the sampling methodology, to recording the data, then entering it into a spreadsheet, then managing it, writing R code and GIS and so on to get to the point where we have findings that we can share to whoever it is, our stakeholders, rights holders, our clients, and so on, to make the decisions, whether that's investments, where to put protected areas, how to manage fisheries, and so on. And across the very top here, I've got a list of some of the tools that we use to get from A to Z across all these steps. And so it's very time consuming and slow. And so workflows really haven't changed since in decades, if not centuries. We have an idea, we collect data, we put it together, and we collect data in various forms. So primarily field ecologists or social ecologists collect data with a pencil on paper, and then we enter it into a spreadsheet. Some use phone hotlines. So if you see a marine mammal that has been stranded, or if you see illegal fishing, or you see something, you can phone a phone hotline. And so where I live in Atlantic Canada, there are different phone hotlines for invasive species, for sharks, for turtles, for animals that have been injured. Then many of them have built their own custom apps, an app for whales in the Seychelles or turtles in this location. So everyone's sort of building their own things. There's also ways to collect data through email, sensors. So lots of data is now being, digitizing the ocean. So lots of data coming in through sensors, and then biosensors. So that's eDNA. So these, if you're not familiar, there's lots of talks about eDNA. So there's all these data collection that's happening, and each one has their own structure and framework. And then we go through the processing of that, and then we're communicating results. So if we dig in a little bit further of how much time and money, so this is what I spent a lot of time figuring out after spending 20 years in the field and doing science and for policy and for monitoring and so on. We spend some time collecting data, but a lot of time we spend entering it, cleaning it, analyzing it, mapping it, and generating reports. So even the smallest project that I have ever even heard of, I can't even think of one that's this small, but let's say you would 2.5 months, 10.5 weeks is very time consuming and also has a big budget associated with it. So this is just an example from my neck of the woods. It's a small area. Atlantic salmon is one of the most culturally important species in this area. And we spend a lot of money trying to understand it and to recover this species over decades. And so this is a progress report on the recovery of this species, published in 2021, with the last data point being 2015. So 6 years out of date. And every year we keep putting more money and more effort and more science into this species, but it keeps being out of date. So how do we know how to properly manage it or invest in its recovery when information is so out of date? And if you want to do this report for this species is just one. If you want to interact that species with invasive species or their threats or other things, you have to then repeat this again and again and again. So it's very slow, very time consuming, and very expensive. And we're always left guessing. So that's, I want to pause there as what the questions might be. Does everyone agree, or is there disagree around that? Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go to Patricia, because Patricia also participates in consultancy projects a lot. So, Patricia, what do you think about this? Is this a challenge that you face often? The silos of data, the data being scattered all around different tools? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience, and maybe if you have a very specific example that you can share? You're muted though. Just a reminder.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, that's something that I believe every scientist or consultant struggles to have accurate data and up-to-date data, and where to find it. I mean, there are many sources, but also very diverse. Depends when you look for that, no? And then sometimes, particularly researchers, until you don't publish, is not available, this data, no? So it's not immediately available. So this is one of the main challenges. Maybe you take some years to publish your data, and maybe you don't share through open science, no? So you don't share it in a platform where others can see it, no? So this is very relevant to have a platform where you can share all this up-to-date information, also that everyone can contribute, no? So citizen science approaches are very needed, no? So they're needed for really to have more information about the status of the marine environment, the impacts, the solutions. So yeah, I will say, of course, yes, this is needed. But I would like also to hear from the audience if they are having similar challenges. We have actually someone from the audience that have a question, I think.
Yeah, but I think we can leave it for the end, Patricia, because it's not
Okay.
related to the topic, so we can address it later. But while we wait to see if anybody wants to contribute to this part of the discussion, Patricia, I wanted just to ask you something, which
Mhm.
is you mentioned citizen science. I'm not sure if, everyone is familiar with that term, so can you explain us what it is?
Mhm. So citizen science is the science that is contributed by the citizens. I mean, the word explains itself, but to explain it a bit better, I hope. So every one of us, even if you are not a scientist, can contribute sharing data. When you are on a spot, no, such as using for the eOceans platform, the application, no, or other application, you can share information when you are on the spot, no? So you are, for example, visiting a marine protected area and you see an impact. You are seeing something, and then you can report it. We do, particularly in Oceanogami also, we do citizen science as part of our work as well, with companies. So with the employees, we collect marine debris, and actually we monitor it, know how what kind of marine debris we have collected, how many, the weight. So all this data, it goes to an open database and is shared with the scientists. So the important is that this information that is collected later is shared with the scientists, so they can use this data for the research and later inform the citizens and the policy makers to make decisions. So I hope
Yeah.
that I explain it.
Yeah, it was very clear, Patricia, I think. Thank you. If anybody still has questions, again, feel free to drop them in chat. But now I'll go back to you, Christine. How have you seen organizations try to solve this problem?
Oh, how have I seen them typically by R, so writing R code, that's the first step, that can be replicated over and over again. So you build like a nice, clean R script. If you're not familiar with R, you could look it up. R project, it's now POSIT. Well, there's R, lots of people use R Studio, which is now POSIT. And so you have a nice R script. So then whenever the data comes in, you can run through that same script over and over again. The other way is to hire a team of developers to build a custom app. And so you build a custom app, and then the other way is to, yeah, I think that's the majority of ways. And now
Okay.
that's where we're
Yeah,
coming in.
which requires, a lot of time and expertise, and again, huge costs, I'm assuming.
Huge cost.
Yeah.
So
So, Christine, yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just going back to you and to what eOceans is doing, and I was going to ask you, how are you guys trying to solve
Yeah.
this problem? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so before I continue with that, I will just tell a couple of stories. One is I used to work for government, and I would write my own R scripts for one species in one location, like whatever project it was on. That's what I was doing. I was hired to analyze data, whether it's functional diversity, species diversity, fisheries, and so on. And I was assessing a marine protected area, one marine protected area that had been in place for over 15 years. And it had never been assessed. And it was a $700,000 project to assess this protected area that had been in place. And we very quickly found out that it had never been working. And that's what inspired me to start to really dig into this, to say, we have 18,000 marine protected areas in the world. If none of them are being assessed for effectiveness, then maybe they're not actually doing anything. And most marine protected areas do not have a near $1 million budget to assess them. And so that's what inspired me to leave, to start to ask these questions about how can we do this better? How can we leverage technology to be deployed at the marine protected areas was the first, but then fisheries and so on. So, and I had been doing lots of citizen science work before, which is a whole nother discussion we could have. But so I saw the urgent need for the speed. So when I was writing that R code, I'm thinking, oh, there's all these other scientists that are writing the same lines of code for a different species in a different location or a different marine protected area. Why don't we just replicate that over and over again so that we can have scale scalably assess marine protected areas or whatever, and making it easy, scalable, cost effective. And then not only that, so, saving time, saving money, that sort of aspect, but also how can we do this in a collaborative way so that it's not just breaking down these silos instead of all working separately. One NGO, one First Nation, one government, one company, all working separately. How can we do this in a collaborative way, but also in an ethical way? So Patricia mentioned open access data. And in a lot of cases, open access data is absolutely not the right path. If you're working with fishers, if you're working with tourism, if you're working with local knowledge holders or traditional knowledge holders, they have the right for data democracy and self-determination in how their data is being used. So for example, I worked in Fiji. Meaning I had Fiji data, but I've never actually been to Fiji. I was analyzing their data for them. And it shouldn't be on me to decide who has access to that data. So if I served it open access and somebody else went and used it to go and harvest their sharks, that would be an unethical use of research, and it would do more risk than benefit. And so all these aspects needed to be considered in developing a technology. So of course, there's lots of technologies out there, and I assessed all of them, but none of them did what I thought was necessary to do ethical collaborative research in this fast, easy, and scalable way. I will stop there. Did you have see that as a vision? Go ahead.
No, yeah, you can move forward and just tell us what it is, eOceans, and how you are solving this issue. I think we can go that way.
So eOceans is the one platform that's been purposefully built for your success. So the research that you are currently or want to work on. So imagine any of your projects where you have a report that's generated today with data up to and including today. So that when you go and have your meeting, your stakeholder meeting today, or your client meeting today, you have all the data you have up to today. So imagine even, scientific papers, when you read them, even my own scientific papers, the Great Fiji Shark Count is a great example, published in 2022, but the last data point was, I think, 2016 or something like that. It just took so long for the publication to come out. And that really slows down everything that needs to come from the work. The work that we're doing is important. And so imagine that this is all live and updating paper. So this is essentially all that functionality that we previously used many tools for has been put all into one app and platform so that you can get from A to B all in an iterative and real-time way. And so how does it work? So the first thing you want to do is you define a project. Whether it's you're studying tuna fishery in the Indian Ocean, you define the area of interest, or in the Mediterranean, let's say. That may be more relevant for some of the audience. You got a fishing zone, whatever it is, you upload a boundary file that defines your area of interest. It can be a tiny marine protected area, it could be a little bay, it can be the entire Mediterranean, it could be the whole Atlantic Ocean or the world, whatever it is that you're interested in. And you define your variables. So are you interested in just bluefin tuna, or are you interested in biodiversity and you want all species? Or do you want orcas with sailing boats? Because I know that's important in some parts of Europe. So it's thinking through what are the variables that you're interested in, and then what are your data streams. And once you launch the project, then you feed it data. So you've launched your project, you feed it data. Data can come from, existing spreadsheets. So if you already have data, which most projects already do, you upload the data and you'll already see it become mapped, graphed, and reported. No delays, no pointing and clicking, no R code, none of that stuff. It's not months like, oh, I got my data set. Now I'm going to go through many months of cleaning and querying and analyzing this data. It automatically comes to life. And then if you have other sources of data, like sensors or biosensors, and then we have a mobile application, which collects your date time. So this is like your field operators, your fisheries observers, your marine mammal monitors, instead of them writing it down. They are using the app to log those observations. And it's not just, we have 200,000 species. So you get presence, absence, as well as the relative abundance. And you can even report on the individuals, their size, their behavior, any injuries, if they're alive or dead, or if the fish was retained or released. All that data can be collected through our mobile app in a standardized, interoperable way. And then it goes through and you'll get to a dashboard where you can, filter the data and see it in different ways. And then you get off to the right, you'll get reports, and you can download the data if you choose, download the data in a nice, clean, interoperable format, which is important for your archives, for self-analysis, for delivering, to your customer, or to serving to the open access warehouses that you've mentioned previously. So this way you can have it and it's nice and clean and there's no afterthought. And then another thing that's really amazing is that that data now can stream to multiple projects. So like I mentioned, the salmon project earlier on, if I'm out there doing electrofishing or any type of eDNA, whatever it is, type of sampling, the salmon data can go to the salmon project, but the invasive species can instantly go to the invasive species or endangered species or threats or pollution. And I don't want to say it's just biodiversity, because we also have social values and threats like pollution, as well as the environment. So now you've got a holistic picture of what's happening in your area across all these different variables. And this can be used anywhere and everywhere. So from north to south, east to west, and the collaborations can not only be, so I like the salmon example because the example I showed you was from the inner Bay of Fundy, so a tiny area where I live, but this species is quite broad and can be used everywhere, can be found everywhere, and research is being done everywhere. So imagine if there were research projects in each of the rivers as well as one across the whole, and everyone's working on their own projects, but instantly collaborating across borders and across its distribution. So yeah, that's the platform as a service. We also provide, we have consulting. So we have a couple of people on the call. We have marine policy, we have statistician and development that all can support your projects, whatever you need. So it's built and supported by experts. As I mentioned, we're PhDs, and we've done, human and animal ethics training for many years. And so it's unlike anything else. And we're really dedicated to the ethics of collaboration. I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. Yeah, I think the platform is amazing, but what I really wanted now, let's see if you can deliver, is can you show us? Can you actually show us the platform? Maybe give us a demo? Yeah.
I can show you a demo. I don't know what else I have here in this slide deck. Then to give a demo, I need to unshare and then go over to the demo spot. Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, it works for me. No problem.
Just if there was a project, so I just hear if there was a project that you have interest in, whether it's Horizon Europe or a consultancy project or anything like that, we can scope out the project needs, create and launch the project, hook up your data streams, and start going. And so, yeah, there's our contact information. And so from there, I will stop sharing, and then I will go over to the demo.
Yes, let's see the demo.
Okay.
So if in the meantime anybody has any questions for Christine or Patricia, please leave them in the chats. And after this demo, we can go dive deeper into your questions. We already have one from Nidhi. We'll address it later, but I think that's it. So please keep your questions coming while Christina is setting this up.
Okay, so there's two main parts to eOceans. One is the mobile application, and the mobile application, you can kind of see it like it is designed for your field team to go out and collect data. Your field team may have diverse objectives. So for example, this is a dive tourism team in the Maldives, I think, and another one in the Maldives. So they're collecting data on marine megafauna And you can see here that they have logged it and shared it. So when they share it, that means I get a notification that they saw something interesting like a turtle. And you can see in the observation what it comprised of and all the projects that it went to. I can click on one of those projects like this, the Lamu Megafauna project, and I will show this and you can see the methodologies and observations. You can see all the data, like this is the observations that are going into that project and so on. And then there's some results. It takes time. I don't want to take everyone's time to load up the app, but here you can even see my profile and everyone can follow me if you want. So it's similar to like LinkedIn. You can follow me and see the research or the observations that I'm making, the surveys that I'm doing in the oceans and lakes around where I am. And then in here in the top corner here, I'm an orca. So when you start off as a starfish and you work your way up 10 trophic levels to an orca. The more data you provide that's validated and the more projects it goes to, so that this way, if Patricia wants to invite experts only into her project to monitor orcas, and she says only experts, then you can identify who those experts are because they're orcas, or you setting an example. So that's the mobile app designed for the field teams to engage, to QA, QC data, and to collect data in the mobile app way. And as the data is collected, it comes into your projects. And so this is the dashboard. Am I sharing properly?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So overall, there's the ocean ledger. So this is what we've built as everyone's working in their own projects. And if they decide to, they can also stream it into the global ledger. And so the global ledger will eventually help us track all the species diversity. So here, these are my observations, and these are the global observations. So imagine if you had, orca whale projects, all those orca whale projects feeding into one orca number, and you said, oh, we want to recover. So this is why I said tipping points, changing the tipping points as we start to set goals. And now all those data can be helping to track the diversity of an area and so on. But that's as people wish. So, but over on the left, I will show you that project. So here, these are the projects that I own. And these are the projects that I've joined but don't own. These are the global eOceans projects that anyone can join. So if you're going out diving with sharks in Mexico or in Mozambique or anywhere in the world, we have a global one. You can log your sharks and rays and turtles and all that stuff, and it will funnel into here. So we can be tracking that global. But here, if you have a consulting project or a project of your own that you want to only invite some people to, this is where you'd find yours in your own, but this is what it looks like. So the one I just showed you, this is the Lamu Megafauna project in the Maldives. And so this is their dashboard. And you can think of all these tabs kind of like the parts of a scientific paper or report. You've got your abstract, your methods, your results, everything's there. It's just all in sort of not a static way. So this project I am missing where the users are. So if I go from left to right, so the sampling method, before I start there, actually, I'm finding that it's better if you go and you see this first. So to create a project, it's super easy. You create a project by defining the name of the project. You upload your logo, like Oceanogami logo, a banner image of the MPA that you're monitoring. You define your organization. So imagine if Oceanogami had 100 organizations, 100 projects, they would all be defined by that same name. So even that metadata of data owner would be nice and clean. Project description, project scope. This is where you're choosing your sampling methods, your variables. These are just your objectives and description. Project location. Here you're going to define the area of interest, so you can use our global boundary file. That's all the oceans, or you can select one of our predefined ones, or you can upload your custom boundary file. So if you have whatever your contract is, you upload that and eOceans looks at that and says, we're only interested in coordinates that are inside of that project. And that's essentially it. The rest is pretty easy. So you defined your study area, you defined your variables, and that's that. So then I will come back over here and go back over to joinable teams and show you that. So once their project is live, then they're feeding it data. And so here, they're interested in all sampling methods. And then you can choose, and then there's the location. So that's just a static image of the atoll, but this is the actual coordinates that eOceans streams into the project. Description, that's like your abstract. Observations, these are all the observations that are coming in. So if you QA, QC data or do the quality control, an extra tab will come up showing all the data that's been removed. So it's transparent in that way. Overview of the project, that shows your variables. So in this case, they're only interested in these megafauna species and all human dimensions. So any pollution, oil spills, threats, anything like that is in here. Management, if you've got a marine protected area, that's where you define what activities are and aren't allowed. And then here's the power. So this is the data that's streaming into this project. And on the right-hand side, you can see the filters. So the different filters turn on and off the different types of analyses you want, as well as the different types of data. So if you want the species information versus social values, so this is what that atoll is being used for. So think of a marine protected area or any space, as well as the threats of that space. And here's the sampling effort. So this is where, if you're doing a scientific study, you want to make sure that your sampling effort is spread across all your different sites. And so you can see some of these sites get visited a lot, and some of these other ones might need to be visited more often. An environmental impact assessment report, that is absolutely necessary, right? Because you don't want to have a highly biased sample if you're doing that. And so you'll be able to see that right away. And then this is our species wheel. You can click on it and see all the species. This is a huge deal. So species names change all the time, and there's over 200,000 of them. And so we update. So as a species name changes, we update the inputs as well as the outputs. And that is so key, because when I was working on a manta ray paper, when it started, there was one species of manta ray. When I finished, there were 3 species, and by the time it was published, there were no more manta rays, they were mobulid rays. And so that is like, already it was out of date, just even in the name of the paper. And so yeah, all your longitudinal data, you've got your heat maps, again, saving you so much time and money for making your maps. Your tables are all here, all the, like, everything you need, everything that most papers and responses need for environmental impact assessments, nature-based reporting, nature-based solutions and reporting, MPA assessments, fisheries assessments is all in there. And you can point and click and see those trends through time and be working together. So
yeah.
And you can
Christine, if you can,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you could wrap it up, because your demo has sparked many questions. So I want to have time to answer the questions.
I'm good. I will stop there and let it go from there.
Okay. So